Hello, I'm Richard, and I'm here to give you an update on how things have been coming along here at Janus Motorcycles. It's been a while since our last update, and we've had a lot of developments since then. We've been quite busy since our last update and putting lots of design development into these bikes as well as road testing. We've been out, we've gotten great footage of the bikes, some of which you'll see soon, and just been putting miles and miles and miles on these things and upgrading everything as we go. And at this point we basically have arrived at what would typically be a second generation version of this bike, and we're quite pleased with it. We've been doing a lot of work to finalize both models and have a production ready bike. What we have right now is basically the final product. All the wheels, brakes, suspension have all been worked out. We're fine-tuning some of the damping on the suspension, but most everything's been worked out. Let's talk a little bit about the suspension. So one of the things that we were working with our first suspension system, and by that I mean the full leading link fork that we have developed, was that we had some issues with too much forces going into the fork leg itself. In order to place more of the shock forces into the shock absorber, the actual suspension unit, we lowered the pivot point of the front swing arm. And the result has been dramatic. We also pulled the swing arm pivot point back, reducing the anti-dive and kind of balancing that anti-dive out perfectly. Our first prototypes, when you applied the front brake, the front end would actually rise under braking. At this point, we have almost no change in height, ride height at the front of the bike under braking, which is sort of the most we want to go with the anti-dive. We'd like to maybe have a little bit of dive, but certainly not have it rise at the front. And we've pretty much arrived at the perfect balance for just no change in wheelbase. You can keep good contact with both tires. We're very, very pleased with it. So what we've been working on with the suspension is both on the hardtail Halcyon and the softtail full suspension Phoenix, a balance between spring rate and damping to provide a really soft ride. Often when you're working with a lighter weight motorcycle, it's more difficult to get as smooth a ride as you'd have on a 400, 800 pound motorcycle, just because it is lighter and there's only so much that the springs can do. So it's been a balance. What we have right here are our new Icon suspensions that we're extremely pleased with. These are very, very high quality rebuildable shock absorbers. They have adjustable preload and they are progressive springs. We started working with a wide range of spring rates and damping and preload adjustments. So what we've arrived at is a shock absorber that pairs spring rate and damping. Currently, we are fine-tuning the damping on these shock absorbers, especially for the front. You want to have the right rebound damping and compression damping so that the shock absorbers operate quick enough to handle road bumps at the speed that this bike is likely to be experiencing. So while we were working on the front suspension geometry, we also took the opportunity to take a look at the front brake and reevaluate it. Our first prototypes, we used a single piston caliper with a 220 millimeter front disc, which is about what you'd expect on a bike this horsepower, and the speeds we're expecting. However, we felt like the braking could be a little better, so we've gone up to a 250 millimeter front disc, which is a custom design for our bikes, and a two piston caliper. And the braking has dramatically increased. You can just touch that front brake and get any braking you really need. And that paired with the leading link anti-dive is really an amazing experience. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more updates soon.